What's going on, everyone? My name's Tenebris Infinite, and here are the top 10 locations added to the Marshlands. From unmarked spots to fantastic set pieces, an obscene amount of new loot sources, and some of the craziest things we've seen yet, to say the Landfall update was huge to the Marshlands is a disgusting understatement. So today, we'll go through my 10 favorite locations added in this update, show the coordinates for them, and have a short talk on why they're so great. If you like the video, slap the thumbs up button, and if you want to stick around for more, feel free to subscribe. We're going to start off talking about the location, and then we'll show the location on the map afterwards. So if you want to find these locations for yourselves, the map and coordinates will be at the end of just a short explanation. So first up, we are coming on over to the Soviet Recon Camp. One of the few Soviet camps to actually get a map designation as opposed to being more of a hidden location on the map. This is also an excellent location because you have a set piece spawn of a few prototype doggos and a few soldier ball boys, and you can kind of use this as an easy opportunity to maybe show your friends some of the new machine infighting in action. But on top of that, this location is a pretty solid location for loot, having a number of dead soldiers around it, which is just very handy for loot. As well, you have a couple containers having a whole bunch of the new black medkits that we've seen come over with the Soviets. We can't use them just yet, but I'm very curious about them. Either way, the Soviet Recon Camp is just down the way from the logging camp, kind of near to Skvarden and Ruskale here. For location number 9, we're coming on over to the obstacle course near Mira. This obstacle course is just an awesome, incredibly creative use of a number of props that we have in the game. From things like hanging sacks to tire obstacles, really interesting log jumping course to this kind of interesting slanted angle walk, which is surprisingly difficult to do with your character's big feet. Again, it's just a really creative location for you to come to and potentially do something other than fighting machines for a little bit. A spot for you to kick back and relax maybe, especially with the added chaos of the new Soviet machines. You can find it just beside Mira here. This next location made it onto the list not just because it's a really awesome spot for fights, but also because it has this really awesome set piece story told in it, and that's kind of the thing that I wanted to give you dudes with this list, is not just awesome locations, but unique locations too. You have two of the little red houses, which actually are some of my favorite houses in the game. They're simple, but usually the set pieces on the inside are like really detailed. And these houses are, or at least this house, is a pretty cozy little spot. But then outside of that, you have tons of really reliable Spetsnaz class machine spawns all around this area. You get tons of link spawns all around the marshes of Borgokulan here. As well, there's tons of opportunities for wolves to spawn too. But then on top of the machine spawns is this really awesome set piece in the second house where this guy was clearly partying way too hard and then fell and like smashed his head off the wall, like must have like really drilled that wall and died. It's intense, man. Maybe awesome isn't the right word, but either way you can find Borgokulan on like the northeastern section of the Marshlands here. For location number 7, we're coming on off to another excellent location to get into big fights with tons and tons of Soviet machines. What's simply titled Soviet Strategic Camp in the Matryoshka reports is one of the coolest Soviet camps that they established on the mainland. One of them. Definitely not the coolest, but one of them. With the downed wolf as well, that means that you get a free shot at getting an advanced medkit off this guy, and they drop advanced medkits quite frequently. Alongside that, they drop like half a thousand rounds for a select type of bullets in the game. So if you carry an SMG, say for instance, you're pretty well off. Same for the 5.56 rounds too. Then when it comes to the camp itself, you have this one downed exoskeleton soldier from the Soviet forces, and that's something really spicy we'll talk about later on in this video, as well as this just really established, like, built-in Soviet camp, and it's just, it's really cool here. Reliable Soviet spawns, really good loot, there's not too much more you could ask for. It's really easy to get to this spot. It's just outside of Skvarden Bunker, or just down the hill from the logging camp. For location 6, we're coming off to the Mira military shelter, and this place is pretty cool because of two reasons. One, there's this wild party trick. It's pretty cool. But this also made it onto the list because it's such an awesome, like, set-piece story that unfolds in this bunker. So let's just kind of go through it here. So as we make our way on down into the shelter, we notice some blood, and then a trail of footprints heading on into here. And as we open up the closet here, we find that the person kind of rummaged around, found some soap and some toilet paper, and essentially bandaged their wounds, which is why the blood trail stops. Then you come on over to this, like, kind of shady end of the place, and the footsteps come in here, and there's a pile of clothing on the floor, and then the footsteps essentially disappear. That means that this person came in here and took a freaking shower. Like a normal human being would. And then they were like, oh man, what a good shower, and came down here, and there's like some water and stuff, and then blap, they got blasted by a machine, but they managed to, like, I guess, fend off the machine. The machine kind of backed off from there. You could see all the water on the floor, kind of showing that they had a shower too. And then there's this smoky cafeteria room. As you make your way on into the smoky cafeteria room, which luckily enough isn't so smoky that it's going to damage you, you find this downed resistance fighter and a downed machine across from them. Alongside that, you find a freaking grenade on the floor. So this dingus fended off the machine somehow with their bare hands, managed to get, like, a grenade, I guess, probably in the cafeteria here, and hook-sauce that grenade point blank. What a legend. Alongside that, the shower thing, it's like, damn it, man. We probably smell like absolute shit. The way you can follow the trail through the whole thing, it's just, it's such a good set piece. You can find this really close to Mira and close to Skvarden, just kind of on the way from the camp that we were just at. Next up, we're coming to the totally epic Alnestead Overlook. And not just the Overlook, but a treasure map that's included with it. Now, I'm not going to spoil the location of the treasure map, or the location that it leads to. I want you dudes to go off and find that for yourselves, but I will show you the location of the Overlook here, so that way you can come here and get started. The map's sitting inside one of the tents at the Overlook. There's also this brutal doggo kill with a shovel, nonetheless. Shovels as a melee weapon someday, maybe? But to show you dudes that there is actually a treasure at the end of the treasure hunt, I'm not going to give away the location here again, but there is a ton of loot crammed into this tiny little spot. So if you're looking for any of it, come on through. Check it all out. Now, location number 4. We are coming on over to what I'm calling Soviet Landing Site B. Soviet Landing Site A is closer to the Karl Erich Lighthouse, and I consider that to be the Landing A because that's kind of where they started off from, especially in regards to the Matryoshka reports. Whereas this looks like a secondary landing of a further force to kind of kind of pull around on the mainland of Ostatorn here. Not only do you have a downed wolf, but you have a number of other downed machine set pieces. And we've talked about machine set pieces before in the past on my channel here. They're just incredibly reliable sources of loot, especially if you don't have an engineer. But then next up is another party trick that you could potentially show your friends if you want to. So we're inside of the hovercraft here, and the door does not exist. But there is a space inside of there. And that has me curious as to whether or not we're going to see a hovercraft in the future that we're going to progress further into to potentially meet with Tatiana, which is a character that's introduced in the Matryoshka reports. Next up, Stenmira, literally the entire city because it's been occupied by Soviet forces. There are now lots of dead soldiers around the city that you can loot in order to get, reliable sources of ammunition, as well as tons of the Soviet small ammo boxes and the larger ammo boxes too. Really, there's tons of loot in Stenmira now. Some really excellent set pieces, and even the small parkour set that you can climb up to utilize the roof of the gas station. Just on the outskirts of town, you have probably one of the coolest Soviet camps, I think, where it's half a Soviet camp and half a Phoenix base. So you also have the most varied loot source in the game with the harvester drop stations. But then, probably the most ultimate thing that was added in Stenmira, a friggin' skateboard man. I don't think that we've seen a skateboard, at least as a prop, in the game before. But I do know that the next best vehicle that we could see in the game next to a bicycle is straight up a skateboard. What signifies the 90s more than skateboarding and Tony Hawk? Maybe a bunch of other things, but still, that was a piece of the 90s. Then, alongside that, there's some pretty awesome machine spawns around the area. You get very reliable Spetsnaz class Soviet machine spawns. And the nice thing is you also get a pretty fun urban environment to fight them from. You can find Stenmira. It's the big city in the marshlands, just in the northwestern side. I guess you could be confused with Mira thinking it's a city. But yeah, Stenmira, just up here. Now, for my favorite Soviet camp out of all of them, the Exoskeleton Soviet Camp. This is an unmarked Soviet camp, and it has like a ton of exoskeleton Soviet soldiers. And I really, really want this. If it's like an outfit or something, man, it would be cool. I would take it. It would be awesome. But another theory I have is that potentially if we wind up running into hostile NPCs, this little electrical component on the back of this dude could potentially serve as like a component on a human enemy outside of, I guess, headshots. In a very simple sense, of course. You can find the Exoskeleton Camp just outside of Ferala on the way to Garpimar. Then, arriving at Garpimar proper, and this city's always been wild, but nowadays, this place is a absolute war zone. You get so many high-class machine spawns in the area, from Spetsnaz machines, to Apocalypse machines, to Phoenix machines. It's just absolute chaos. So, of course, there's tons of machines, and there's tons of loot, and honestly, probably there's some very interesting things in the houses around Garpimar, but that's not quite what we're going to be talking about here. Oh, and also, the Russians came from outer space. Now, I'm sure a lot of you dudes have found this location already, as we've talked about it in one of my guides for, I think it was the Matryoshka reports down here. But this place, this underground railroad, is insane. I very much enjoy this spot, and I really hope we'll see more really large subterranean locations like this that aren't quite bunkers but are still like military-esque and like, you know, secretive too. The way it's hidden in a barn is so cool. Now, this could all be an elaborate reference to something off in Sweden that I'm not aware of, but I don't think so, man. I think that potentially we could be seeing some sort of a crazy subterranean addition to the game, which would be really cool and unexpected, to say the least, I guess. Like, imagine if in the crater we get to go even further into the area and then we find out that there's like this hidden secret FOA underground railroad network. That word is hard to say, man. The two R's, it's like my Canadian tongue can't. There's also this red door with an adrenaline right beside it, so if you need a single adrenaline, you can pick it up here. But in the future, maybe if we find another one of these, maybe there could be like a hidden bunker on the inside of it or something like that. Or maybe the metal shutter could be opened so that way we could go like through like a couple of them that are maybe connected together or something. Either way, the potential for underground locations in Generation Zero is very, very high, very unexpected, and totally exemplified in this spot. If you haven't found this location yet, it is just inside of Garpimar here, in the last exploded barn on the left. So my dudes, do you have any awesome locations to add to this list? Post them up in the comments down below if you do. Also, the hype train don't stop for Landfall. We have so much more in store. I just wanted to give you dudes an easy day here after dropping like 10 videos in one day. But anyway, my dudes, stay awesome, and I will catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.